Thank you very much, Rick. Thank you very much, Rick. And I want to compliment and thank you for staying in the fight all these years and for leading that fight. And humble Jerry Kirk, who's sitting back here not saying much, but he and I go back to my years at the Department of Justice when he organized so much of the country to fight the scourge of pornography. And I want to talk a little bit about that today. There was a time, ladies and gentlemen, in America where children had access to pornography. High schools, college kids were getting it day in, day out, more and more. Married men were having a steady diet of it. And the result was child sex abuse, child pornography, addiction, divorce. It all sounds like what is happening today, but what I'm talking about is 30 years ago with the advent of the VCR and the videotape. You don't get your pornography today on a videotape. Porn stores rarely have that medium. But we had that situation 30-some years ago when pornography then became popularized. You no longer had to go down to that seedy part of town in the big city to buy pornography. There were many companies that wanted to sell that to you just by calling them up. You could get it. But most likely, you got that videotape after getting a sexually explicit advertisement, multicolored advertisement with actual clips from the pornography films in your mailbox. The porn companies would buy up the mailing list and send those sexually explicit advertisements to adults, to children, and pornography was really becoming a major problem in America. Many good people banded together back then, and something marvelous happened. The group of people, Father Morton Hill, who was president of Morality and Media, and several other good people went to President Ronald Reagan and said, the laws prohibit this. Why isn't your Justice Department doing something? Now, you may know your history a little bit, but in the Nixon administration, we had the first commission on pornography to study it, and their result was to say that all laws on pornography should be done away with. And these people going to President Reagan wanted a new commission that would give a better look at this. And so President Reagan began the Attorney General's Commission on Pornography. It's often called the Meese Commission, but it was actually started under Attorney General William French Smith. They held hearings around the country and asked for public input. And what people learned as a result of these hearings around the country was, surprisingly, that we have laws on the books that prohibit the distribution of most of this pornography, but the Justice Department is not enforcing those laws. Out of that Attorney General's Commission on Pornography came many recommendations, two that I want to highlight today. One was to say the laws are on the books. Get them enforced. And the second recommendation that I want to highlight is that they urged the Attorney General to start a special strike force of prosecutors in the criminal division of the U.S. Department of Justice. Well, President Reagan and then Attorney General Meese took these recommendations very seriously. And President Reagan put a whole host of new laws together and corrected the other laws, sent it up to Congress, and Attorney General Meese established what became the Child Exploitation and Obscenity section in the criminal division. I was working elsewhere in the department. I was the Attorney General's law enforcement liaison and was pulled over to this section and eventually became the head of it. But when I became the head of this, in the office they put me in, there was a closet, and they stored all these letters from people around the country, 250,000 letters from people that resulted from these public hearings where they were told, if you want to make your point of view known, write to the Attorney General. And I began reading those letters. And they sound very much like what we've heard from Dr. Marianne Layton and others today. People were writing in saying, I'm addicted to pornography. I got started with Playboy, and I went to harder and harder stuff because nothing satisfied me. And now I'm in jail having molested a child. Because all that would excite me is child pornography and the sex with children. And there were stories after stories from wives having problems with their husbands, et cetera, et cetera. You know the story. Well, to truncate the story about the child exploitation and obscenity section, and I don't take credit for it myself, but we had 120 convictions over a little over 4 years of the major producers and distributors of hardcore pornography around the country. What we did is go out to Los Angeles, California, meet with the LAPD, which knew all about the porn industry in America, and we told them that we are going to take on the major producers and distributors of pornography, but the Justice Department, having done virtually nothing for 20 years, doesn't know who those people are. We had already begun prosecuting those companies that were the mail order companies sending the videotape advertisements, but we didn't know who the producers were. And we didn't know who the distributors were that were putting it in the porn shops. The LAPD knew all about it, and they put together for us on a target list the names, addresses, and all the other information we needed of 60 top pornographer distributors in America. You may recall that the top pornographer was Reuben Sturman, identified by the Attorney General's Commission. So what we did is begin to go through that list and go right at the top producers and distributors. And they were just beside themselves. They had had a green light from the Justice Department. Pornography in America was virtually legalized, even though there were these laws on the books. And what happened as a result of this, after 4 years of steady prosecution, and we never lost a trial. It wasn't that we were so good, but the difference between the Justice Department of the United States bringing a case and the local prosecutor from your hometown bringing a case is that the Justice Department can match shot for shot the defense attorneys of the porn industry. I can name the top 7 or 9 porn attorneys in the country. The porn bar, so to speak, is very small. They do all the cases, so they're very experienced. And what they want to do when there's a case brought on pornography, illegal pornography, they want to overwhelm the court with all these motions, these pretrial motions. They want to bring in all these experts to lie on the witness stand, saying there's no effect, there's no harm, et cetera, et cetera. The local prosecutor gets overwhelmed. The Justice Department doesn't. So we were able to match them in every court in the country. And when people in the jury have to look at this material, not that material, but they look at the videotape in the courtroom and they watch it, they have to decide, and I'm going to put this in layman's terms, does this meet my community standards or is it below? Now, how many people are going to, even if they're looking at pornography, even if they own porn tapes, how many are going to say, when they go back into that jury room, that yes, this is what America is about, this is what our community is about, we love this stuff, everybody's doing it. And despite the projection that the porn industry wants to have, that everybody's doing, everybody loves it, people want to say, my community's better than this. And they always convict. That's virtually always the same. The end of this 4 years, the porn industry changed. They took off the shelves virtually all, except in a couple jurisdictions like Manhattan, all the so-called incest films, the rape films, the pseudo-child pornography films. You get the 18-year-old girl, and oftentimes it was a 14-year-old girl in the mainstream porn that is acting like a 14 or 13-year-old girl. That was taken off the shelves. The only satellite distributor of hardcore pornography went out of business. Cable companies didn't have the obscene pornography. In fact, that satellite company is a good lesson in this. We had a case with the U.S. Attorney in Utah, and it was against that satellite company. They were using a GTE satellite to broadcast porn into the homes of subscribers around the United States. As soon as the grand jury began and subpoenas went to GTE for all the records of this operation, GTE hired the top criminal attorney in Washington, D.C., Brendan Sullivan, you may know that name, and sent him to Utah to tell the Utah U.S. attorney, we didn't know this was illegal. Satellite television, gee, we were completely caught off guard. We got your subpoenas. We don't want to have any part of this. We cut that company off and we'll never do this again. Now, what do you think would happen today if there was a grand jury and they brought Comcast or Verizon or some of these people into the grand jury? Where do you think the president of Verizon or Comcast lives? I wager it's a better place than a jail cell where he could go for 10 years if he's convicted, his company's convicted of an obscenity charge. So that the only satellite company disappeared. Hotels and motels didn't carry the obscene pornography. They had a lot of softcore in some of those places. But the point I want to make is not how glorious this child exploitation and obscenity section was. That section came about, and the legislation to Congress came about because people all across the country, Jerry Kirk, Rick Schatz, Dr. Jim Dobson, all these people demanded that the federal government act. And we have a very similar situation today. We have a situation where our laws are not enforced. We had some enforcement in the Clinton administration, right when the internet came into being. But they only prosecuted the most extreme. Bush followed suit, only prosecuted the most extreme material. What do you think happens with community standards when the standard is set by the Justice Department and that standard is only the most extreme material is not acceptable in your community? The way you bring cases and the way we brought cases is to bring a whole bunch of tapes into the jury, from soft to really hard, and let them decide what the community standards is. But the Justice Department, through 2 administrations, hasn't done that. Now you've got the Obama administration, and they haven't indicted one individual. All they've done is shut down the prosecution office. It was shut down in December. I want to run through this because about a minute ago I saw the 5-minute sign. Can you believe it? But about a year ago, I was asked by the chairman of the Board of Morality and Media, why doesn't the anti-pornography effort get the attention it deserves? And my response was that all those groups that were working together at one time are now working individually. And it's not to say they weren't doing great work, but we've got to get them all together on a single project. Not the be-all and end-all of this whole anti-pornography effort, but a single project. And that project has to be to get the laws, the federal laws against illegal pornography enforced. Believe me, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, John. Believe me, ladies and gentlemen, you won't get this problem solved just by praying about it. And I believe in prayer. I believe in miracles. You won't get it solved by all the research that's put that in the right hands. You have to have the law. The law is a great teacher. What would happen to prostitution in America? The people who support it always say legalize it. What happens if you legalize prostitution? You've got even more prostitution. You've got sex trafficking. People say legalize drugs. What happens? You got more drugs. With the laws not being enforced, we have a free-for-all in American society. So we began this project a year ago called the War on Illegal Pornography. Have you got that up there? And here's the website. It is literally thewaronillegalpornography.com. And I hope you'll go to that site and join up. What this is a group. Pure Hope's part of it. Focus on the Family's part of it. Lots of groups, 85 groups, working together to get our laws enforced. What are our laws on pornography? I'm going to run through this quickly. It is illegal to put obscene, hardcore pornography on the Internet. Well, what is the Internet? It's virtually all obscene pornography. They're not making money on softcore pornography. The kind of material your kids first get on the Internet is obscene, illegal, hardcore pornography. The material that our Justice Department says is okay. It's illegal to distribute hardcore pornography, obscene pornography, in hotels and motels, on cable and satellite, in retail shops, even these mom and pop shops who have a video store. We've got to get the Justice Department to take this seriously. We have a second goal, and that second goal is to educate. If you put up the next slide up there. We've started the, that slide. pornharms.com. What this is a collection of for the war on illegal pornography. This is one of our projects. And we have volunteers from many of your groups helping us find research articles on the harm from pornography. And this is a collection of peer-reviewed articles on the harm from pornography. You can click on addiction. All the articles we know about are there. Brain science, they're there, etc., etc. It's all free, and we have a team updating it regularly. 1 minute. I see it. We have, next slide, please. We have a Facebook site. Now, I know the problems with Facebook. I mean, it's like saying, but we're there. We've got a beachhead there. I mean, it's like telling the preacher, why are you on the street corner? You should be in church. No, the sinners are on the street corner. Preach to them. Well, the sinners are on Facebook. We have 31,000 people who have joined. We've even done an online live conference on pornography, the harms from pornography, on that site. We're using Facebook for good. Next slide, please. YouTube. There's Dr. Laura Letter. Oh. We have, this is called the YouTube generation, the young generation. Mm-hmm. We have a YouTube site where we continually put up this kind of material. So what we're trying to do is act together with 85 organizations and not take all the credit for ourselves. And we tell those groups, please, if you go back a couple slides of that letter, please work together to get these laws enforced and to get people educated. This is one of our recent projects in Congress. We got almost half the United States Senate and 75 members of the House to sign a letter to the Attorney General saying pornography is causing great harm. It's leading to sexual trafficking, et cetera, addiction. And we know that you're not enforcing the law, so now we've got Congress telling them this, and we want the laws enforced. So that letter just went last week. Senator Dianne Feinstein and other prominent Democrats signed it. We've got a project going for the hearing, the oversight hearing on the Department of Justice coming up. All the coalition members will be asked to weigh in with those two committees, Senate Judiciary, House Committee, to tell those committees, when the Attorney General comes before you, ask him why he's not enforcing the law.
Amen.
Yes, that's on our website, pornharms.com. And in our educational effort, we're producing a lot of wonderful works. Here's a couple by Bob Peters, that many of you know from Morality and Media. One links sex trafficking and pornography. The other links pornography and the sexual abuse of children and child pornography. Ladies and gentlemen, you'll never solve the child pornography problem in America unless you're willing to prosecute adult pornography. Mm-hmm. It's the brain science. Men don't start with child pornography. Pedophiles do. But most men who are involved with child pornography are not pedophiles. They didn't start out as a pedophile. They looked at the adult pornography on the internet. Their brain demanded more, harder, deviant material, and some then go to child pornography. Here's a link to it. It's all at our table out there. Let me just conclude by saying that whatever good work you're doing, we want to support it. The War on Illegal Pornography wants to support it. We hope you'll join together on this one small part of this whole effort. Get our laws enforced, get people educated. This is a mission we have to accomplish. Some people say you won't get Obama to enforce the law. I think we will, if we all act together and put pressure. The Attorney General is right now under great pressure. Let's keep it up. Thank you very much.